Hey guys, welcome to Amity Tracks, and welcome as we continue with our Rolling Stones week. This is the third episode in this series, and we got one more. So go back and watch the previous ones if you haven't already. We started with a review of the brand new record Hackney Diamonds, and then last episode we started the countdown of their studio albums, number 26 through 11, and I explained there too that I am focusing on their U.S. discography, so which makes a difference in the 1960s. So the U.S. albums, and here we are, my top 10 Rolling Stones albums. So let's just dive right into it. In my number 10 slot from 1964, I have got 12 by 5. Which I don't know. I like that title, right? 12 songs by 5 guys. Anyway, 12 by 5. Yeah, this, of course, they are still in there, mainly doing covers, of course, although there's like one, two, three, four, five. There's five originals on here, most of them pretty slight. But this just kind of holds together really well. One of those originals is it's an instrumental, 2120 South Michigan Avenue, which of course was the address for Chess Records in Chicago, or I believe that was recorded actually. Um, I think that's pretty groovy actually. I really like that instrumental. But Yeah, Empty Heart, kind of cool. Good Times, Bad Times is pretty cool. Now there are some of their killer covers on here. Time is on My Side, which is a classic of theirs, and it's all over now. That Bobby Womack song that they do is great. So yeah, this I think is one of the better of that original period where they were still doing a lot of blues covers and R&B covers and stuff like that. It's still, I think, a really potent listen. All right, number 9. I've got 1981's Tattoo You. I think this one, for a lot of people, not for me, but for a lot of people, they kind of look at this as the last great Stones record, maybe. For me, I love Undercover, the next one, and I'm really loving the new one too. So um, anyway, but yeah, everyone loves Tattoo You. I love Tattoo You. Obviously, I got it this high. The funny thing about Tattoo You, which a lot of you guys know, is grab these two. I got some CDs I want to show you too. The funny thing about Tattoo You is, it was heralded at the time, as this great, return to form once again, right? And the truth of the matter is, as many of you know, it's made up basically of leftovers, stuff that was in the vaults, stuff that needed to be polished, off and kind of finished off, from previous sessions, really spanning through a lot of the 70s. That's kind of the funny thing about it. But it was sort of sold as a brand new Stones album, and it plays really cohesively too. It's a great record. I kind of like how it's divided, with the sort of rockers on side A and then most of the ballads on side B. Of course, opening was "Start Me Up," a perennial uh, concert opener, right? What's kind of fun. Let me grab. I meant to pull these up here. Let me put them here. The expanded deluxe edition that they put out here with a second disc of outtakes, which is kind of funny, right? I mean, a record that is made of outtakes, and then you have a special edition with a second disc of outtakes of the outtakes. I don't know, but what's kind of cool is there's an early version of "Start Me Up" on here that's kind of sort of reggae-ish, and I mean, they made the right call on this, but it's sort of fun to listen to, just as a curiosity, if nothing else. But yeah, I love Tops. I think that sort of casting couch tale, and I believe I was reading. I think think Mick Taylor's playing on that. Again, it's an older song, I think. Waiting on a Friend, I think, is just brilliant, beautiful song. I love everything about that song. The Sonny Rollins sax solo in there is just great. But yeah, Tattoo You. All right. Now at number eight, I have an album that I've seen a lot of people probably have higher. Now, eight's pretty high, 8 out of 26, in a band that I think is amazing. So no, no, yeah, there's no knock on this record at all, but it still might be kind of low for some people. And that is 1966 Aftermath. Notably, the first Stones record that is made up of all original songs. There's no covers on here. And I think Brian Jones really shines here again as this multi instrumentalist. Adding all of these sound textures to some of these songs. But Lady Jane is beautiful. God, that it just has such a delicate melody and that harpsichord on there. It's Not Easy. Or no, I Am Waiting. Actually, I Am Waiting is another one that I think is gorgeous. My only knock on this record, I think probably the only reason it's not a little higher is because of Going Home. I mean, to me, that's filler. And it's 11 and a half minutes of filler. So it's not just a regular song on there. I mean, you have all of these 2.5 to 3 minute to 3.5 brilliant songs on here. And then it's just clear that they had to fill some space. And so they expand this, I think, fairly dull song for an 11 and a half minutes to close it out. And to me, it's just a momentum killer. But man, you take Going Home out of there. I mean, this is brilliant. I mean, it is absolutely brilliant. Still deserves this reputation. But I just, to me, Going Home just bothers me so much that, and I love these other these other seven more. So what is number seven? Number seven is sort of a uniquely American release because it doesn't really have like there's a UK and a US aftermath. There's a UK and a US between the buttons. But this one doesn't really have sort of its UK equivalent, and it was really sort of used to just kind of clean up some spare songs that hadn't made it on the US releases, that had been on some of the UK releases anyway, and it's just kind of this mishmash. I don't know whatever you want to say it. I've even seen Mick Jagger himself sort of kind of dismiss it as, oh, that's not a real album. Well, I mean, it is, as much as any of these other early to mid 60s, because they were all just sort of thrown together from all these sessions they were doing. So I'm talking about 1965's December's Children and Everybody's. I love this record. I think it's got a real momentum to it. Side two, especially, is just fantastic. Now they're still doing some covers here, but the covers I think are masterful. She Said Yeah is a great opener. I got some Chuck Berry on there too. Route 66 is on there, but what's really showing here is their originals are outshining the covers at this point. Um, the Singer Not the Song, I think, is a great Stone song. Get Off My Cloud, one of my all-time favorite Rolling Stones songs. For me, just the quintessential that drum beat, that opening up, just I just like, oh, Charlie Watts. I love Get Off My. I always have. It's always been a favorite Rolling Stones song. I'm Free, As Tears Go By, Blue Turns to Gray, which is kind of a great forgotten original from this time period. I mean, they are really starting to write some masterpieces. Jagger and Richards, and I love this record, love it. And again, often kind of falls between the cracks, but it shouldn't. All right, coming to the number 6 slot, we have. I guess this would be the top of, or the highest ranking from that kind of early to mid 60s period, And so 1965, the US version of Out of Our Heads. And, this really was, I think, where they start writing masterpiece originals. Uh, okay, Satisfaction is on here. That alone, right? But more than just that, The Last Time is almost as good as Satisfaction as far as riffs go and all that. Play with Fire, beautiful, gorgeous song. And even some of the lesser originals on there, the Spider and the Fly is cool. The Under Assistant West Coast Promotion Man, you know, and 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 I think masterful covers on here too. Mercy Mercy, that which opens the album, is got a deep groove on there. Really finding grooves. So yeah, they're just this is masterful both with the covers they're doing and the originals on here. I mean, so I think this is the greatest of that first era, that early period. All right, number 5. I bet you can guess what number 5 is. You know why? Because you can probably guess what the top 4 are, because they're like everybody's top 4, and you know what's left. So sort of the what has to be here in the 5 slot has to be Some Girls, 1978. Their great comeback, right? Or resurgence, whatever you want to call it, revival. Because they had kind of been coasting through a bit of the 70s with some good, but not peak albums. And then out of nowhere, seemingly, they come up with this masterpiece, this late period masterpiece for them. Man, it's just got everything. This is one of these great places where there's this wonderful balance between what Mick Jagger wants to do, kind of he wants to he always wants to kind of dive into the more modern sounds and be relevant. So he wants to get into some of the disco sounds, and Keith Richards, who wants to kind of keep chugging out those awesome Stones / Chuck Berry riffs, and it's both on here, and brilliantly so. Miss You, I think one of the great sort of disco inflected rock songs ever. That is so great. When the Whip Comes Down is sort of cheeky late 70s New York mentality there is awesome. Wonderful cover of Just My Imagination, the Temptation song. Wonderful cover. That's one of the covers they make their own. I really think so. Kind of the notorious, very un-PC, misogynistic title track. It's still pretty interesting. But man, Before They Make Me Run, which is one of the great Keith Richards sung songs. Um, I remember reading some write up on this somewhere. It's so true. Like if this had been the final Stones record, like that should be, like the epitaph. Like the just watch my taillights fade, and I mean, it's Keith Richards going on, because well, and if you know what was going on with him at the time, there was this real threat that Keith was going to spend some substantial time in prison for I think it was heroin possession or something, cocaine here. I think it was heroin. Anyway, yeah. So this there was a chance this was going to be the last Stones album, at least as we knew it. Beast of Burden is on there. Shattered is on there. I mean, just brilliant stuff. And I think this is the record that pretty much every record after this has sort of tried to emulate a bit, or at least live up to. Yeah, this. All right, here we are at the top 4. I've read a lot of Stones ranking lists. I've watched a lot of Stones ranking videos. I cannot recall any of them where these weren't the top 4. It's just a matter of what order you want. And I'll tell you this, all the orders are correct. I mean, there is no wrong order with these 4. This is one of the great streaks in rock and roll history. All 4 of these are absolute masterpieces. I mean, you know what they are. And so it's just a matter of, what order we're going to put them in. We're this period from 1968 to to 1972. And to me, you got to throw a live album in that streak too. Get your yayas out. But we'll talk about that album in the next episode when I cover all the live material. But we're just ranking studio records here, so we got to do these four. What's the order? Well, here's my order, at least right now. It's changed over time too. So in the 4 slot, I have what many consider to be the ultimate Stones masterpiece, their double album, their opus, 1972's Exile on Main Street. The murky masterpiece. And it is. It is. Um, it's always interesting to note that this was not all that well received when it came out. A lot of people, a lot of critics, it was bloated and not up to snuff. But of course, since then, it's become, I think, the most respected, critically beloved Stones record ever. I think this one, and a lot of people, it's their favorite. And it's hard to argue. Man, it's hard to argue. The scope of this, I mean, from beautiful acoustic songs, kind of countrified songs, just murky bluesy songs, songs that just rip it up, and this gospel inflected. So it's all there. It's all there. Interesting thing, and again, this shows you kind of the difference between Keith Richards and Mick Jagger in a lot of ways. From reading a lot of stuff, Mick Jagger has always been somewhat baffled as to why people love this so much. It's not a favorite Stones record of his. I bet you he probably favors Some Girls a lot more than this. But Keith Richards, of course, loves this record, and then thinks it deserves its accolades. Yeah, I mean, it's a classic lineup. My favorite lineup, with Mick Taylor in there in the second guitar slot, and it's just, you know, Exile. All right, coming in. Oh, by the way, I did want to share these. I meant to show these a little earlier. Yeah, I should have shown this with Some Girls. There's also a deluxe edition of Some Girls with a second disc of outtakes, which are fantastic. A lot of real kind of country inflected stuff with those. And then we just finished talking about Exile. There was also a deluxe Exile on Main Street released with another disc of, even though it was a double album, another disc of outtakes. I love the Exile on Main Street outtakes. I mean, this could have been almost a triple album. Plundered My Soul is great as far as one of the outtakes goes. Yeah, and that one actually was unfinished, so I know Jagger came in and kind of redid the lyrics when they were putting this together. But Pass the Wine is great. Yeah, I mean, it's just really, really great stuff. It's interesting. There weren't any big hits off here. Tumbling Dice is kind of the biggest song off here, and that wasn't a major hit. But yeah, it's one of those records that just kind of fits together. Yeah. Turd on the Run. It's so great. Let It Loose. Beautiful song. All right. Hang on, I got to sneeze. Editor can edit this out. I feel it come. I sneezed, so we're back. The magic of editing can edit out the sneeze. Okay. Where were we at? Number three. In the 3 slot, I do have Beggars Banquet. Now, this, of course, is the kind of the cleaner cover art here. I do have it on CD. The other one, I forgot to pull that CD down, but here, editor can throw it up there. The toilet seat cover art for Beggars Banquet, which I kind of like. But anyway, this is the one I have. Yeah, Beggars Banquet, which is like the beginning of this amazing streak. And I mean, Sympathy for the Devil, No Expectations, Parachute Woman, Street Fighting Man, Stray Cat Blues, Salt of the Earth, and more. I mean, brilliant. Starts that streak. It's interesting. Brian Jones is on here very little. This was his technically last record he was on, but I think he only played a couple of songs here. I believe the slide he does on No Expectations is really his final work as a Stone. So a lot of the guitar work, People kind of talk about Keith Richards as mainly a rhythm guy, but Keith is playing most of the solos on here. A lot of them. That great iconic guitar solo in "Sympathy for the Devil," that's Keith Richards. Yeah, this I remember reading somewhere. Some critic said this, and I totally agree. So I'm going to steal it. I don't remember who said it. But this was really where the Stones sort of stop mimicking the blues, and trying to, in some ways, still sort of emulate some of their blues heroes, and they really forge their own identity and start making their own blues, and blues rock, whatever. I think that's so true. I mean, this is so original, so earthy, so gritty. I've always loved Stray Cat Blues. I mean, that's just a nasty song lyrically, but man, so great. Yeah, there you go. Two more. Now, these two have flipped many times in my estimation. In some ways, it really just should be like 1A and 1B. Do ties. I'm not gonna do a tie though. I will choose a 2 and a 1, but just know that they are incredibly close. So in my 2 slot, I am going with 1971's Sticky Fingers with the Andy Warhol artwork here. And of course, I do have, I don't want to break it, the working zipper. I very rarely zip it up and down because I don't want to break the zipper. But for you, the viewer, I'll risk it and zip it down once at least. Anyway, yeah, Sticky Fingers. Sticky Fingers. Probably the I don't know, the weariest, but so wonderfully weary. Stones record. Um, Man, it's just that's just brilliant, and I do have the deluxe edition there too, although it's not as interesting. Although there's a version on the second CD of the outtakes. There's a version of Brown Sugar with Eric Clapton playing the solo. That's kind of interesting. Yeah, I know some live tracks on there, but anyway. Although I'm going to look at the CD here because the track listing on the outside of the vinyl, so I need to look at the CD here to remind myself of some of the songs on here. But of course, Brown Sugar, Wild Horses, those are the two classics. Although Brown Sugar's sort of fallen out of favor, they don't play that anymore. But man, everything on here, Sway. I remember seeing Los Lobos, and they did an amazing cover of Sway at that show I saw. Anyway, Sway is great. Sister Morphine, Moonlight Mile. Oh, how beautiful that song is. That is so weary and so gorgeous. Just use of space on that song. That may be one of the most beautiful Stone song ever. I don't know, maybe. But for me, it's Can't You Hear Me Knocking? I mean, for people who say the Stones don't or can't jam, listen to Can't You Hear Me Knocking? That, God, what a great jam that is. And Mick Taylor on that. Oh, anyway, yeah. Sticky Fingers is. You want to tell me that's the greatest Stones record? I'm not going to argue with you. I'm not going to argue with any of these top 4. Well, you know what's left. My number 1, my current favorite, best, whatever you want to call it, Rolling Stones record, 1969. Let It Bleed. Let It Bleed. I mean, when you open with Gimme Shelter and you close with You Can't Always Get What You Want, and everything in between is just as great. I mean, uh, what do you say? I don't know what to say. Yeah, Love in Vain. Again, they've developed so far. It's a Robert Johnson song, but instead of just covering the song, they totally make it their own. Love that. Midnight Rambler. Now I am partial to the live Midnight Rambler off of Get Your Ya-Ya's Out. That's the really the famous version, and it's dark on here too. Man, that's got such a deep groove on there. Song about the Boston Strangler. It's just so good, so good. I mean, Give Me Shelter just defines sort of the chaos of the end of that decade so well. You got the Silver, fantastic Keith Richards song. Live with Me, man, what a great riff! That bass and the guitar on there, and it's a funny, decadent lyrics from Mick. Monkey Man is brilliant, of course, used in Goodfellas so well in that scene. And then, of course, you can't always get what you want. I mean, I think the epic Rolling Stones song, it's perfect. Yeah, I mean, we I think when I did my 1969 list, I mean, this was my number one album, 1969, and that was a packed year. So I mean, this is just monumental. Well, there you go. From the last episode and this episode, we have counted down, we have ranked the Rolling Stones studio albums, at least the American discography. So let's keep talking Stones in the comments. What do you think? What's your top 10? Did I get it right out of those top four? Do you have a different record than those four that I have in the top four that like seems like everyone has? If so, what is it? Anyway, let's talk it. Let's talk Stones. So thank you guys for watching. Yeah, please do subscribe to the channel. Helps us out. Hit the bell for notifications, like the videos, and we'll see you next time because we got one more video on the Stones before we will move on to other things. Yeah, I got to do a video covering the compilations and the live albums. You got to talk live Stones. Both kind of official releases and archival stuff. And so, yeah, we got to get into all of that. And we'll do that in the next episode as we wrap up the Stones. All right, thanks, guys. We'll see you later.